Okay, so what is trolling? Now, most people will understand trolling as cyberbullying, and certainly a lot of cyberbullying is trolling, and it's difficult to differentiate the two, but it is very important that we do differentiate the two. I think everybody knows what cyberbullying is. It's using the internet to bully people. It's a very significant and dangerous phenomenon, particularly in the lives of young people and of vulnerable people. It's estimated that a significant proportion of all young people, maybe 1 in 4, maybe higher, have been bullied on the internet. So this is what I go on to say isn't to denigrate the fact that trolling is cyberbullying, but I think that trolling is different from cyberbullying. Trolling, as I understand it, is using an exaggerated persona on an online platform like YouTube or Facebook or Twitter to over-exaggerate your responses. Either you over-exaggerate your aggression towards a particular issue, or you over-exaggerate your emotional response to the aggression of a particular issue. This is kind of off the cuff, but I would say that trolls that overstate their aggression towards particular issues tend to be outright trolls. Trolls that overemphasize their being offended by that kind of statement tend to be liberal left trolls. Of the two forms of trolling, outright trolling is by far the most powerful and successful, and indeed has a significant role to play, in particular I think the American election, but also to some degree Brexit and what's going on in Germany at the moment, and so on and so forth. Trolling then is not just bullying online, but actually it's a persona that you take on. The troll is someone that lumbers into a conversation in an aggressive way, or that steps back from a conversation in an overly emotionally offended way. This transforms ordinary forms of conversational interchanges you might get online into what eventually become viral Twitter storms or memes or so on and so forth. So it's a kind of emotional beefing up of what would ordinarily be quite common conversations, so that they become incredibly overblown conversations. Why do people do this? Trolling is clickbait. People over-respond online to get more of a reaction from other trolls, and in that way they get more likes, they get more shares, they get more clicks. So trolling is a prime form of clickbaiting online. Is trolling illegal? This is a question that I was approached to discuss this week, and I had a little bit of a think about it. So yeah, legislation was passed in this country in 2016 to deal with cyberbullying, and trolling as a part of that. So in some senses, yes, it is illegal, and there have been some high-profile cases where trolls have been prosecuted. But whether or not they are trolls or whether they are not semi-psychopathic cyberbullies, that's a point that is worth thinking about. Spreading hate speech and doing what sometimes people on places like 4chan and Reddit call life ruins, that is actually going out of your way to destroy the confidence in the life of somebody through social media, that kind of trolling, that kind of cyberbullying trolling or life-ruining trolling is basically illegal. However, whether or not there's much that the law can do about that's a debatable point. It is illegal, and I think it should be illegal. But trolling is not the same as that, as I've said. We all troll all the time. So making trolling illegal, you might as well make social media illegal, because all social media is a kind of trolling. All social media interactions are avatars or masks that we wear, and we overemphasize parts of our life, and when you do that, that's effectively trolling. So over-exaggeration is a form of trolling. So in that sense, trolling isn't illegal. You couldn't make trolling illegal. Okay, I want to talk about platforming now, which is a very significant part of social media and a very significant part of discourse in the world and of trolling. What is platforming? Okay, so normally you would describe a platform as, for example, Twitter as your platform, but platforming really is gaining enough traction on a particular platform that you can influence things. And so on Twitter, for example, to platform on Twitter, you either have to really go out of your way to be absolutely notorious, like Milo Yiannopoulos, or you have to gather a large following, like Piers Morgan or J.K. Rowling, and then you may augment that following by being absolutely outrageous, like Donald Trump. Platform is an essential part of trolling and an essential part of the political landscape that we live in today. The possession of a platform, the utilisation of the platform, the gathering together of enough followers on a platform that your trolls can be effective is a central strategy of politicising trolling, and a really, really important thing for us to think about. It is a key means of doing something which is already existed before but now exists even more, which is how to turn the currency of celebrity into political currency. And I think that in Trump, you can see how that happened already. And in Milo Yiannopoulos, you can see how someone was trying to do that. We need to pay attention to this. It's a very, very important part of meme weaving and of trollstering and the political landscape we live in today. Is Trump a troll, and how does outright trolling work? I think it's time to say that there's a difference between right-wing trolling and other forms of trolling. Outright trolling, let's call it. And is Trump an example of outright trolling? He absolutely is an example of outright trolling. What is the point or the purpose of outright trolling? It's to poison the political landscape under the auspices of free speech or telling it how it is in such a way as you can gain currency. You can transform already existent currencies, for example, the currency of celebrity or the currency of being outrageous, and you can convert that currency into political currency through outright trolling. Sometimes people call this fake news, and the relationship between fake news and trolling needs to be investigated. I call it not so much fake news as faking the news, manipulating the news agenda through the manipulation of the wider political environment through outright trolling, fake news being part of that, such that you gain an immense amount of attention in the mainstream media and you begin to shift the centre of gravity of political debates effectively to the right. Things that couldn't be said before suddenly can be said. And of course, once you shift that to the right, then things that were on the extremes before now become central. So they're no longer extreme. And that means we get new extremes. So trolling becomes a kind of self-perpetuating development of further extreme positions. I think that Milo Yiannopoulos is at the sharp edge of that. How far can you go in outraging people to convert celebrity currency into other forms of currency? And we clearly have the answer with him. So this one says a direct relationship between trolling and fake news. I sometimes have called it in the past how Trump trolls democracy. You can also look at how hackers have hacked democracy, and you can also look therefore at how trolling is trolling the news, producing fake news, but also faking the news, controlling the news from trolling platforms, particularly Twitter, making trolls, making aggressive interventions the news, and in doing that, not directly making people vote for you, but changing what is acceptable in political language and political discourse, such that something that was unimaginable before, Trump being president of the United States, first of all becomes imaginable, and then in becoming imaginable, becomes actionable. He actually is the president of the United States. This is an extremely interesting, dangerous, and fascinatingly new phenomenon. If there's very much negative trolling, can there be positive trolling? There has to be. This is my CTA. For all the liberals out there, you don't have to be liberals. You can be right-wingers who dislike Trump, or you can be right-wingers who wanted to vote to remain in the EU. You need to find a way to compete with trolling. I think that left-wing trolling, or positive trolling if you prefer, has to be different from right-wing trolling. There's been a rise of liberal fake news sites. That's not the way to do it. The CTA here is to find creative means of trolling that diffuse and undermine and ultimately make look ridiculous the outright modes of trolling that are so dominant at the moment. And that's why this weekend was so important, I think. First of all, we have the Swede memes really doing a brilliant job in undermining Trump's ridiculous claims by using clever, intelligent, millennial-style meme weaving in such a way as his ridiculousness becomes clear. Then you had the use of the Green Bookshop tweeting the whole of Harry Potter to Piers Morgan, a creative, almost artistic, durational kind of conceptual art form. So ridiculous, so crazy, so mad that it captures the attention of the world, and it gives you several messages about reading, messages about Piers Morgan, messages about outright, messages about what the internet can be used for, and so on and so forth. And then finally, we need to pay attention to people like Milo Yiannopoulos, because although you might find his views offensive, I certainly do, what he's been able to do in creating a media identity, he's platformed himself from nothing into something almost politically significant. We need other people who are able to do the same thing, but in a less poisonous, much more constructive fashion. So to end here, I think we've learnt a lot about trolling this week. We've looked at its darker side, We've been experiencing that, but we've also started to see a pushback against trolling, a liberal left pushback or just an intelligently informed pushback. Ways of using trolling in a positive sense rather than a negative sense, and using it in a humorous, ironic, intelligent fashion to undermine the dominant trolls of the alt-right that are completely controlling the landscape and the conversation at the moment. This is a great benefit if you're on the liberal left, but it's also a great benefit if you're on the moderate right. A positive and constructive means of pushing back against trolling by using the tools of the trolls against them. And who did I learn this from? Of course, that great genius of the internet, Donald Trump. Because as I observed Donald Trump accusing the mainstream media of being fake news, I realised, oh, what a great troll. He's taken the very accusation that was used against him during the election, that he was fake news. He's turned that weapon against the very organisations that he hates, mainstream media, and through meme weaving and trollstering, he's gained something completely new. That's what we need to do. We need to take the weapons that are used against us by outright trolls and we need to turn them on outright trolls. We need to be better trollsters and more imaginative meme weavers, and it's only then, I think, that we can begin to change this very poisonous political landscape that we're currently experiencing. Peace out.